everyone, welcome back to the Wimpy Studio, and today we are here to talk about The Walking Dead Season 5, Episodes 5, 6, and 7, and my dad is here to join me, of course.
Hey, everybody.
So, yeah, what did you think of these 3 episodes? I mean, we've kind of discussed it a little bit. Not our favorites, but not awful either. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just storytelling, trying to prepare things for future major events,
Yeah.
And so they seem slower. But that doesn't mean there isn't like some spiritual stuff going on or there isn't conflict and themes. So looking forward to talking about these 3 episodes with you.
Yeah, I think it's the perfect example. It's like good storytelling, just not like action, and it's just not like super entertaining to watch a lot of.
Well, there's not a lot of resolution, right? So
Yeah.
there's just a lot of tension, but no real... I mean, I guess I shouldn't say that because, the Eugene thing, that's a pretty big deal, right?
Yeah.
But it just kind of leaves you hanging a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. So, yeah, episode 5 is called Self-Help, and basically this episode is just Abraham's group, and they're on their way to Washington, D.C. They get into a wreck. There's actually 2 car wrecks in these group of episodes, one with them and one with Daryl and Carol. And basically, the noise attracts a bunch of walkers, and then they start to surround the bus. So they all have to go out and kill them, and Eugene's there, he's scared. But then he must, because he has to save Tara, so then he starts to fight. And they're kind of, questioning, should we go back to the church, or should we continue forward? Abraham is very adamant, we need to keep going. He's just kind of like a bully that way. Or just, very macho type of leader. So they set up camp in this bookshop, and Eugene spies on Abraham and Rosita having sex, which was, a really creepy and weird scene. First of all, I didn't really want to see Abraham and Rosita doing it, and, Eugene spying on them is freaking weird. What do you think of that?
I agree. I think that was in the comics, though, right? I think something like that.
Yeah.
Something, I don't remember.
Yeah. So Eugene and Tara talk, and he admits he put crushed glass in the fuel line, which is what caused them to crash.
Right.
He wants to delay them getting to DC. He says he feels like he'll be abandoned once they get there. So that's his reasoning behind this whole thing. And I thought that was a nice moment. And I like how, especially in episode 7, how much Tara defends Eugene, throughout all of this, even after the lie is revealed. But I kind of like the friendship between the two of them. What do you...
Yeah, I would agree. I think, Eugene is an underdog. He is trying to find a place to fit in. And he's very concerned that if the truth is discovered, that he'll be discarded. Mm-hmm. And so this narrative is woven through these 3 episodes of, what is the value of an individual in the midst of the apocalypse? I mean, is it based on what you contribute? And so there's some interesting identity themes woven into this.
Now, there's a lot of filler in the middle of this episode that I'm just going to skip over because it doesn't amount to anything. The whole, fire truck, spraying the hose at the walkers, that was all, filler. That didn't really mean anything. But basically, things start to pick up once they come across this large horde of walkers, and Abraham wants to go through it. And then when Eugene admits he's been lying and he's not really a scientist. So Abraham beats Eugene up, and he is left unconscious. Now, there's that question, was that deserved? It was pretty extreme. He beat him up really hard. He didn't even wake up until the end of episode 7. So he was, passed out for, now we don't know what the timeline, I guess, is. But, at least, probably almost, half a day or something. Mm-hmm. He was, unconscious. Right. That's pretty severe. And he, and the way they, shot it was, ooh, because, he punched him, and then he just laid on the ground face flat.
Right.
Ow, that
he was out,
hurt.
gone.
Yeah, that hurt. Now, I mean, I think everyone deals with lies and in their own way, and Abraham felt betrayed. I do think he went very extreme, though, with his reaction. But it's clear he has anger issues, too.
So this episode, if I remember correctly, because it feels like forever ago when we watched it, had Abraham's backstory a little bit, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Abraham has a story, like everybody does. And when you dig into his backstory, you understand why he is so focused on his purpose and his mission. Because he lost his family. His family walked out on him, and then they were killed because of his anger issues. Right? Is that?
Yeah.
So Eugene showed up just at the time when he was lost, like emotionally,
He was
mentally,
about to kill
physically,
himself.
about ready to kill himself.
Gun in his mouth.
Yeah. Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
And so Eugene became his purpose to distract him from the fact that his family walked out on him and are dead. So, there's this sense of trauma that he has gone through because of his anger issues. And again, we don't know the cause of his anger issues. That's probably a whole nother story. It maybe involved his parents or family, whatever. But the point is, Abraham is acting out of his trauma. He not only has lost his family due to his anger issues, but now he's lost Eugene and the purpose he had. So now he doesn't have to just deal with Eugene lying. He is now dealing with the fact that he lost his family.
Yeah.
And so again, identity, failure, all of these things. And when we act out of our trauma, crazy things happen. And so he beat the crap out of Eugene. Did Eugene deserve it? No, he didn't deserve it. Because not only is Eugene flawed, but Abraham is flawed.
Very flawed, yeah.
And so, again, now we're dealing with a little bit better of understanding what's causing all of this.
Agreed. And, it was cool to see Abraham's backstory unfold. I would have liked maybe a bit more of an explanation as to what the context of him beating up the people in the grocery store was. Like, were they bad people? Like, we didn't get an explanation. And I feel like that would have filled in, a piece of the puzzle. Like, why did he do that? They didn't explain that. Obviously, no matter what, though, his family was very freaked out about it.
Yeah, so. And so we can make some assumptions, since he was in the military, that he experienced trauma there. And so in the midst of the apocalypse or whatever, he freaked out in the grocery store. Maybe he's reliving some of the trauma from his military. Again, it's all back. We're never meant to kill someone. We're never meant to hurt the image of God in someone. So when we do, there's something cracks inside of us. Abraham, it just cracked. It just kept cracking, right?
Yeah.
Each person he killed in the military, each person he killed in the apocalypse, it just cracked a little bit further. And now he's a broken mess on the ground, emotionally wrecked.
Yeah. And I'm not really an Abraham fan or a Eugene fan. Personally, Abraham, I just don't think is really likable at all. And maybe he's written that way. You're not supposed to root for him. Eugene's also not very likable to me. I mean, he's an underdog, and I know we're supposed to root for that type of character. But I think, to me, I feel like Abraham and Eugene are good for little quick dialogue moments or little quick scenes, to provide some comic relief or something. To me, once we got a whole episode about them, I got less interested in them. If that makes sense. I think I liked them last season because they kind of didn't have a huge role. They were just kind of thrown in for comic relief, like I said. But I think because we spent a whole episode with them, my interest in them went down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and here's the where the show could have maybe done something a little bit different. We didn't really care about these characters much before this episode. So when these big reveals took place with Abraham's backstory and Eugene admitting his lie, there really wasn't enough story that led up to this point for us to care. And so I agree. I don't really have that emotional connection to either of the characters. Honestly, I care more about them now, post-reveal, than I did. And really, Abraham's backstory is critical, and Eugene. And I wish there was more, so I could care more.
Yeah, I mean, because they want us to care about these characters. Obviously, they wouldn't have written a whole episode about them. But I feel like they could have done something a bit different or make them more likable. Because I don't think either one of them is really likable. But maybe that's the point.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. Again, I think there's so many questions woven in here about purpose and identity. Very complex and layered. So
what I will say, it was effective how after they revealed a lie about Eugene, is when they flash back to Abraham meeting him for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that because it wouldn't have had the same ring to it if that happened earlier on in the episode.
Right.
Because the fact that they put it at the end is like a full circle moment. So I really like that.
Yeah.
I also thought the actor who played Abraham, that scene where he broke down at the end, he did a very good job.
Agreed.
There. And
Yeah.
like that was like the highlight of that whole thing for me. Just like seeing this tough guy just break. That was really good. I still don't really care about the character itself, but I thought the actor did a great job. Because for all we've seen him so far, he's been the very one-note character.
Yeah.
Just like tough. Eugene's been the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Very just one note. And you could say Rosita's the same way too.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that like we're slowly, in Rosita in a couple of episodes, we're starting to see more emotions from these characters. Now, Eugene's still pretty one note, but I assume that'll change.
I hope so. I hope we'll get to see some
Yeah.
different sides to him.
Yeah. But no, Abraham, like, being, like, emotional at the end was, like, a nice moment. Glenn and Maggie were just kind of wasted in this episode, unfortunately. That was a bummer.
Yeah, and these episodes don't really give us much in their story.
No, they don't. So anything else you want to discuss with the themes wise?
Well, the name of the episode is Self-Help. And so I've been pondering quite a bit about what does that mean.
I looked it up, and I guess they were Eugene was spying on Abraham and Rosita from the self-help section. That was the connection.
Okay.
It's kind of stupid.
So what? Yeah. So what does that really mean? So yeah, self-help is usually, like in the bookstore, it is the section where you find a book that's going to help you become better, right? Mm-hmm. To help you become a better person. Mm-hmm. Typically, it's time management or leadership or whatever, self-help, right? Lose mm-hmm. weight. It's all all that. So to a certain degree, Eugene is the person that is helping them go towards the solution to this whole apocalypse, right? He's the one who's going to take them to, get to Washington, D.C., and they're going to solve all of this, and everybody's going to be better. Mm-hmm. But in reality, that's a lie, right? And so now they're confronted with, well, there is no help. We're not going to get help, from going to Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. Eugene isn't their help. Right. So we now really have to help ourselves, and whether that was intended or not, there's multiple ways to look at this self-help thing, but there isn't anyone on the outside that's going to help them. They're in it for themselves, and that's a scary place to be. Right. That you literally have to help yourself. Mm-hmm. For Eugene, Abraham, and all these characters, they're on their own. So, and again, as people who are broken and hurting all around us, we realize that we're not really alone. We have each other, just like this group had each other. And of course, God is with us all the way through. And so we do have someone to turn to. But, this is, in this story, this is some really hard stuff they're going through. Mm-hmm. Anyway, can we forgive Abraham for his violence? Can we forgive Eugene for his lie? There's a lot of deception. Can Abraham be redeemed? Can Eugene be redeemed? Can they find purpose now that this has all been exposed? Mm-hmm. Is there something for Abraham to live for? Is there something? Will the group value Eugene now that the lie's gone? All these are really, really neat themes to dig into as we move forward. Yeah, I
mean, I thought how the episode ended, like I got way more interested in both of their characters. Throughout, I just wasn't really interested. So they did a good job with that ending. I think they needed that ending, otherwise it would have been an awful episode. The ending really ramped it up, I thought.
Yep.
Because it gave it like a meaning. Because otherwise it was just a bunch of filler.
Agreed.
So,
what do you give this episode rating wise?
I was originally pretty hard on it, but like now I appreciate it a little bit more. Maybe like a 8, solid 8. Yeah,
I would say 8 or 8.5. I would even go up to that part. And really, not necessarily by the way that they filmed anything, but I think that it's an interesting story. Mm-hmm. I like the confession of a lie. So.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So episode 6 is called Consumed. This is a Daryl and Carol episode. They're out searching for Beth. We start off with a flashback immediately after Carol was exiled by Rick. We see her driving back to the prison and seeing it go up in flames. So her intention was to go back, which was interesting to see. She wasn't giving up on the group. That was like a nice way to start it off. Was it needed? No, I don't think it was. But we see in present day Daryl and Carol are tracking the car, but they run out of gas and they have to stay in a woman's domestic violence shelter, which we discover Carol had to go to when Ed was abusing her. I like that callback.
Yeah, I do too.
And the one thing I do like seeing stuff in Atlanta again. We haven't really seen that since season 1, I want to say.
Uh-huh.
So seeing all that again was cool, and some callbacks to the past. One in particular being the Carol and Ed of it all.
Right.
I liked a lot of the Daryl and Carol scenes. I mean, I think I wish they got a little bit deeper and like talked more, because Carol was very closed off throughout this episode and not really wanting to share anything. Daryl kept trying to get stuff out of her, but she just wasn't really willing to share. Which I think all goes to show how Carol's like a very complex character. Just very like she's very closed off like this, which is very similar to Daryl, who's often closed off too. That just makes them so similar, right?
Right.
So Noah, the guy that escaped and he was with Beth from 2 episodes ago, he steals their weapons, and then he rushes off. And then they discover a van, and they find a stretcher from Grady Memorial Hospital, which that's their connection. And then they have to get into the van because walkers are surrounding them, and then they have to drive off of the cliff. And I thought this was like kind of neat how it was filmed. The wreck was filmed. That was a nice little sequence.
Yeah, it was. But I mean, again, I don't know how was there really any meaning? It would just seem filler.
It was just to get Carol's shoulder injured, I guess. Which really, considering what happens to her at the end, was kind of pointless. She gets even more injured.
Yeah.
It was a cool little sequence.
Yeah, to see the van kind of came over that overpass, and
yeah, that was kind of shocking. Yeah, 2 car accidents, back-to-back episodes, and then let's see. So they find Noah, and Daryl pretends to leave him because he wants Carol to make the right decision, and that was like a cool thing that had some meaning behind it. He knows she'll do the right thing, but he wants to see it for himself. He wants to know that she's willing to do that, and she does. She does save him. So then the 3 of them try to escape. He does reveal that he knows Beth. And then, let's see. So then they head to Grady Memorial Hospital, but Carol is hit by a car, and is taken by the hospital staff. So then Daryl and Noah head back to the church to alert the others. And that's pretty much the episode.
Yeah.
Went through that really quick. And this episode was a whole lot of filler.
It was. And, we talked about quite a bit how some of these episodes could be combined and work together. This one, for me, I didn't really see enough of reveals or uncovering of character. It just seemed like a waste. But
well, and I mean, so we went through all of that just for a reveal that there was a Grady Memorial Hospital stretcher in the car. You think they could have gotten to that way quicker. It was just so much small stuff just to that. And then I guess tying in Noah was cool, a cool way to do that. And Carol getting injured, hit by the car, was not expected either. I was like, ooh, that was kind of aggressive. But to me, there was nothing shocking about this episode either.
Yeah, I didn't see much character story reveal. I mean, I know that we're dealing with both Carol and Daryl, their stories and Carol's redemption, and can she, move forward? Yeah. Especially, she grapples with the deaths of Lizzie and Mika and others. I mean, really, she's incredibly complex, and the trauma that she must have endured is just nuts. And you're like, should I like her or not? As a viewer. So there's all of that, but honestly, I didn't quite see enough to. I guess it felt like a waste.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I like that we started to explore Carol's psyche a little bit, really getting to get inside of her mind and find out what she's feeling. But to me, it wasn't enough. And I feel like if you're going to do a whole episode just focused on this one storyline, then you should give it your all. And there should have been really deep conversations between Daryl and Carol that actually amounted to something, but there just really wasn't. I feel like that's what it was missing. It was missing not even just action, because there was some action. There was some action all three of these episodes, but I think this one in particular needed like something really emotional to make it impactful, and it just really didn't have that.
So the question is will there be something down the road that ties back to this episode that'll be significant? And sometimes the show does that, and they do a really good job of plotting things that connect. And I'm hoping, but the title "Consumed" refers to the emotional toll and trauma that has consumed both Carol and Daryl as they search for Beth. Mm-hmm. And so the idea of consume reflects how the hardships that they're going through in this post-apocalyptic world are consuming their spirit and their humanity, which is so true. It seems like the search for Beth can be almost a distraction or a way to deflect from the stuff that's going on inside. Mm-hmm. And we know redemption, if they redeem Beth, can bring healing into their lives. But again, these are just guesses. Is that what consumed means? Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. What are your themes?
Well, guilt and redemption, hope and despair, compassion and survival. Things we've kind of already hit on.
Yeah, that sounds like...
I give this episode a 7.5.
Yeah, definitely the weakest of the bunch. One of the weaker ones of the show, in my opinion.
Yep.
And Daryl and Carol, I like them together a lot.
Yeah, I do too.
I feel like they kind of wasted them. Mm-hmm. Like there just wasn't enough. Even though, again, they were together the entire thing, but there wasn't anything like any emotional punches for me to like really be invested.
I just wonder if I missed something. It felt like there's something that must have been in there that I'm supposed to care about, but I don't know. I mean, it feels like I missed something.
Well, and basically, we didn't learn anything new because I guess the only thing we really learned was that Noah was the one with Daryl, from 3 episodes ago or whatever. But that's that's such a small thing too.
Yeah.
And and I'm like, literally, it's been like 3 episodes and we still haven't resolved that. Who was with him? That's kind of like dragged out too.
Agreed.
But yeah, I would give it like a 7.5. It wasn't my favorite.
Yep.
But episode 7 is called Crossed, and this one did have a lot going on.
And it was much better.
Yeah, it was definitely probably my favorite of the 3, but it was still kind of slow too. But I think in its defense, it was just setting up the mid-season finale, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I guess that's what it's supposed to do. Basically, it starts off with the group barricading the church. Michonne, Carl, Judith, and Gabriel are staying, and Rick, Daryl, Tyrese, Sasha, and Noah are heading off to Atlanta. So let's talk about the church stuff first. So Carl offers to teach Gabriel how to use a weapon, as he needs to defend himself, but Gabriel's very closed off, just like many of our other characters. But he's like the least violent person there, even less than Tyrese.
Yeah,
he's a pastor.
He's a pastor, but he's a very complex character, and a lot of it has to do with what he did at the start of the apocalypse and how he basically didn't provide safety for his flock, and and there's this scene in this episode where he's outside the church and he sees written on the church, you're going to burn or whatever. And I mean, he's trying to deal with this. He's a pastor, but he's screwed up so bad.
Yeah.
What's his identity moving forward? Can he be a pastor in the post-apocalyptic world? And we see that he is broken and a mess, and even moving forward through this episode, there you go.
Yeah. I did like when Michonne told him the things they do are worth it in the end. Mm-hmm. That was a nice line. So he cuts up the floorboards and he escapes into the woods. He comes face to face with a walker. He's unable to kill it, as it's wearing like a cross necklace.
Yep.
I thought that was like a nice moment, because a lot of the Gabriel scenes just feel so random to me. But I did like that there was like some sort of like big moment with him. I thought the actor did a good job there. his struggle with whether to kill it or not, and seeing the cross necklace.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very good at like having like a wide range of emotions, and you can like tell he's like genuinely like freaked out.
He's freaked out.
Yeah.
And you could see there's a layer of vulnerability there when you look at the character. You know, he's conflicted. He's hurting. He's broken. We talk about these things, and I like him. I want to care. I want to see him. I want to see more.
And just also so detached too from everything.
He is.
It is kind of hard to care, just because there's other stuff going on too. What I do hope is that there's not a whole episode about him, because of course, knowing this show, they probably would have a whole episode about him. And
I care deeply because that's my profession. I want to see the layers to which the writers are expressing the hypocrisy of faith, and which is all woven into this whole show, right? You know, Rick's like, why would I care? It's a church. Well, who cares? And so there's this element of can the church be a place of refuge and safety? And so far, it has provided some layers of that, at least for part of the group.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So with the hospital stuff, Dawn thinks they're wasting resources on Carol. Beth insists that she needs to be saved. Dawn then gives Beth the key to the drug cabinet so she can save Carol. And then Beth asks Dr. Edwards which drug she should use, and she gives it to Carol. Not much really happened here. I mean, I do kind of question, like, is Dawn really a bad person or not? Because, like, there's stuff that, like, makes her, like really evil. But there's also, like, why would she give Beth, like, the key to the drug cabinet? Like, we thought that she didn't trust her.
Yeah, well, I think, my opinion is, there's so much gray in these characters. There's no black and white. Every character's complex. Dawn would be an example of that. We see goodness in one of the cops, but then that comes back and bites Sasha. They're all this blending of good and evil, just like us. We're not purely good or purely evil, and we see that. One thing I do like about the hospital, I see some bravery out of Beth. She's pushing, she's coming out of, she's not a weak character. No, she wants to save Carol. She's risking her life. And other characters are involved in that. There was the one scene when she's getting the medicine out of the cabinet. The one guy is faking an illness so that she can get into the cabinet. And then, of course, once she gets back past him, he's all better. You can say there's linking here of some things in the works to redeem, and Beth's a part of it, and she's going along with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really understand why she had to create the distraction to get into the drug cabinet if she already had the key in the first place.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of the roaming of the police officers near the area, and she needed a distraction to be able to get into it. Yeah, that so makes sense, the teamwork there worked out.
But I thought when Beth gave the medicine to Carol, and she said, "Hi, Carol, it's Beth," that was like a nice, sweet moment. I like that. Even though this hospital storyline is so corrupt, there is still like sweet moments like that. So.
I think again these themes of the hospital being a place of healing. That's not.
That's not. No.
The church being a place of refuge. It's not.
Not really. No.
But I mean, yeah. I think these locations and what they represent are important in the storyline. Can the hospital truly be a place of healing for Carol? And can the church be a place of safety? It's cool stuff.
I did want more with the hospital storyline.
Yep. Me too.
They didn't do much with it, just like with the hostage situation too. But I think it'll all pay off next episode, I assume.
I hope so.
So Eugene's still unconscious, and Maggie watches over him and Abraham. Now, if there was one storyline that was really slow, it was this one.
Yep, nothing really developed.
It just dragged on, and I was not interested at all, except one thing, and that's when Rosita revealed that she can create a water filter. We actually got to see her using some of her skills, which was kind of cool. I grew to appreciate her a little bit more after this episode. But I thought Maggie pointing her gun at Abraham was a pretty like, oh, wow, like moment.
Yeah, she's a powerhouse,
Mm-hmm.
and she's not gonna take any crap from anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I do think Abraham has a right to be upset, given everything that's happened. And Maggie also doesn't really understand what Abraham's gone through either, and his backstory and everything. So I did think it was a bit much, like, when she kind of made it seem like his problems weren't worth anything. I'm like, okay, like, I think that's, like, a bit much because, and I get they live in an apocalyptic world, but, like, she basically told him, like, you're not the only one who's lost something today. Basically making it seem like, oh, yeah, your problems don't matter. And, like, but they do matter because he has a right to be upset that Eugene lied. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And Maggie is protecting, and Abraham's a threat in that moment. Without knowing the backstories, Maggie is protecting.
In that particular moment, but I think later on, that was uncalled for when she said, like, you're not the only one who lost something today. But I agree. I think pointing the gun at him at that moment was, like, a fair, I guess, thing to do because he was being, like, rude to Rosita.
So, Abraham has always been the leader. Mm-hmm. He decides everything. And Maggie had to exert herself to say to Abraham, and using the gun was her method of saying, you're not in charge.
Right.
You're not going to make the decisions now.
Mm-hmm.
Again, whether it was necessary or not, I don't know, but I think that was the character point. Abraham's no longer the decision maker in this group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. He kind of like lost that when he freaked out.
Yep.
He lost that leadership
position. He might not have been in the place to be the leader anyway, due to his trauma.
Yeah, he has too much trauma. Yeah.
So I mean, they're all all the characters are. It's just the question of what's the wisest thing in the moment.
Yeah, I do think Rosita has some leadership potential, though.
Mm-hmm.
I'm growing to like her more the more we see her. So basically, back in Atlanta, Tyrese suggests that they capture cops to make an exchange of prisoners. So then they successfully capture 3 cops. One's named Bob Lamson. He's pretty much says it'll take a lot to negotiate with Dawn, but she'll eventually give into it. Now I'm kind of wondering, is that true or not? Because I don't know. I feel like this play-in might go south a bit, and it's gonna, like, I feel like from what we've seen of Dawn, I don't know if she's just gonna give Beth to them. Like, I don't know. I feel like there might be a bit of dishonesty there. I just feel like they're making it seem like, oh yeah, Dawn will, like, agree, but, like, I don't know. I don't think she's going to. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any answer there.
Yeah, I don't know. And then I like the moment when Tyrese told Sasha that getting to say goodbye to Bob is a blessing and she should hold on to that. Yep. That was a great moment. And, and I get, like, everyone deals with grief in their own ways, and you could even say that's insensitive of him to say, but, like, he's also, like, he didn't get to say goodbye to Karen when she died. Mm-hmm. Sasha got to say goodbye to Bob.
Yep.
And I think he's speaking, like, he's glad and thankful that Sasha got the opportunity to have that moment with Bob, and what he didn't get. He's not being like, I can't believe you got that and I didn't. He's not
at
being
all
that way. He's just very mature and down to earth, which is what I like about him. I love Beth and Tyrese both really shine in this episode, I thought. Like they always do. Mm-hmm. And then this whole thing was just kind of like, come on, this was kind of stupid, the whole Lamson and Sasha thing. Basically, mostly partly because his first name is Bob is why Sasha's interested in the first place. But he basically says one of his, like, close friends is out there as a walker rotting, and Sasha offers to put him out of his misery. So he shows her where it's at. Now, untying him was a stupid choice, or, like, removing him from his tied up place. I guess his hands were still tied up, but I would not have moved him. I would not have trusted these people. And I didn't think, like, why was Sasha, like, alone with him in the first place, too, was kind of odd, like, with their whole plan.
Right.
But, basically, and I kind of knew this was coming, because it was just weird, like, what's the point in all of this? Like, why should we care about the Lamson character?
And she didn't
And I think Sasha's
handle it.
also not thinking straight either because of her grief and everything. But it was a very stupid choice for her to do that. Because I'm like, well, like, I don't even feel bad for her. Because, like, I knew that was coming. That that wouldn't be, like, a genuine thing. Because then, yeah, he, like, throws her into the window.
Right.
And she hits her head and then he escapes. Yeah. So I wasn't really surprised there. It was interesting they had Sasha be the one, though. Like, a character who hasn't really done much.
Sure.
So I guess that's kind of giving her, like, naiveness a bit too. But I think at first she had the great leadership potential, and I thought was, like, a pretty strong character. But I think the grief and everything has kind of caused her to turn naive and just distant. Which we saw it was kind of like, because didn't the episode start off with her, like, attacking that pew in anger?
Right.
So I guess, and then it ended with her, too. So I guess it started and ended with her. It's kind of a cool parallel.
Yeah, you're right.
I just thought about that.
Yeah.
But, I liked this episode overall. I mean, pretty much it was pretty good, actually, overall. The only storyline was the Abraham and that whole thing was the thing that dragged, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But everything else I thought was good overall. So
Yeah.
I would give it like an 8.5.
Yeah, I was going to say 8.5. And there is one other little story nugget I want to talk about.
Okay.
And that is Rick and Tyrese. So,
Okay.
yeah, Rick wants going guns blazing. He has, again, this tendency to destroy.
Mm-hmm.
He's losing his humanity. He's very much communicating to the world that, you got to do what it takes. And Tyrese is the voice of reason, the one who is trying to figure out peaceful ways to accomplish the task without killing people.
The next Herschel, which I assume is where you're going.
What's that?
The next Herschel, which is where I assume where you're
Well,
going.
I think we see, and again, this is really a question moving forward. This legacy of Herschel and the moral compass. We see it being carried out really well by Tyrese in these episodes.
And Beth, too.
And I was going to say Beth.
Mm-hmm.
I see the heritage going through Beth of this, but we see two characters representing this peaceful way of living. And again, it's not 100%, but it is a compass, and I do like that a lot.
Yeah, totally agree. So what are your themes from episode?
Well,
7?
let's see. It's called Crossed.
Which I think partly is to do with the Gabriel cross thing. His whole thing was seeing the cross, I assume, is one part of it.
Yeah, I think so. I think that has something to do with it. I think it's the intersecting of multiple groups, with the idea of the conflict and how they go about handling the conflict. And so where their moral lines are kind of crossed, what do we do? For Rick, it's violence. For Tyrese, it's
Non-violence.
It's peaceful. And then you have the pastor, the priest. Will he use violence? Will he follow the way of Christ in nonviolence? And I think all that's woven together in this violence versus diplomacy. Yeah. So there you go.
Okay. Well, there's that. So next episode's the mid-season finale. So I assume we'll wrap up this whole hospital storyline, which I'm looking forward to ending. I want to see that Maggie and Beth reunion. So I do have a couple lingering questions, though.
Okay.
Will Abraham's group continue on to DC, and will we learn more about his past?
Yep.
I'm going to assume they won't go to DC now that the lie's out. I don't think that would make any sense. So will we learn more about his past? I mean, I think it would be cool, too. I'm pretty intrigued by his backstory. I think Abraham, to me, I'm still kind of on the fence about. So if they can do more to get me to like him and sympathize with him, I would be down. What about you? What do you think?
Well, with that, will Abraham recover from Eugene's betrayal? Can he overcome that? Can they both find purpose? Will they be able to mend their relationship? I think those are lingering questions in that particular storyline.
Yeah. Will Rick and the gang's plan work for Beth and Carol to get Beth and Carol back? I think there'll be challenges, obviously, but I do think they'll get them back.
Yeah.
That's my hope. If they don't, I would be upset. Just because I feel like it would be such a bummer if something goes south or something and they can't get them back.
Right.
And I hope that's not what happens.
Correct.
And then what will happen to Gabriel moving forward? This is interesting because he feels like he's such a wild card. What is going to happen with him? I have no idea. I assume he'll kind of go on this path of healing like a lot of the other characters, and he'll start to heal from what happened all those years ago, or not all those years ago, what happened at the start of the apocalypse. I assume he's on his own journey.
Yeah,
there.
And I think with that too, Sasha, will she be able to find healing from her grief?
Yeah.
So you have both characters.
Yeah, I think they're going to be on similar roads.
Yes, in their past there, trying to find healing. Will Carol find redemption? Will she move forward? And then Rick, what's going to happen with Rick with his desire for violence?
Yeah. Well, we'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about what's next. So, anything else you want to say?
No. It's great talking with you about this stuff.
Yeah, totally agree. So, we will see you guys soon. Bye,
Take
everyone.
care.